age is catching up with me, but the Maryland Horse Park. Back every 5 years, I'm with the Maryland Horse Industry Board. Charlie's been a member, Jay is a current member of the board. We're part of the Department of Agriculture, and our job is to license and regulate and inspect. We have about 800 riding schools, boarding stables, etc. And our other part is by state law to help grow, and bring awareness and promote the horse industry. So every 5 years, starting in 2004, the Horse Board has sponsored a Maryland Horse Forum. We're going to have our 5th one next year, probably at McDonough School. It'll be 2024 in August. It's always like the first week or so in August. And the governor usually attends, and about 300 people. And there are breakout sessions, and the idea, people are surveyed ahead of time. And what are the pressing issues in the horse industry, and how can we make it grow, etc. So, and it kind of puts a strategic plan or a blueprint together for the next 5 years of the industry. So I did not attend the first one in 2004, but apparently the big thing that came out of that was Maryland should have a horse park, very similar to the Kentucky Horse Park. So it was a big deal. The Department of Economic Development, which is now the Commerce Department, did a study. It cost about $250,000, I think. It may have been even more than that. And they put out an RFP. There were 6 responses to that from all around the state, from the Naval Academy Dairy Farm to Fair Hill. I worked at that time at Mount St. Mary's University up in Emmitsburg. They even put in to have the horse park at Mount St. Mary's. They had about 800 acres up there and didn't know what to do with it. It ended up being solar panels, but anyway, at that time they put in for a horse park. And there were 6 locations. They selected the Naval Academy Dairy Farm in Gambrills, center of the state, near BWI, 800 acres, beautiful site, it really is. It would have been ideal. However, we've had board meetings. I remember Jay, we took a wagon ride around to see the facility, and we thought, gosh, this would have been a great site. A lot of things happened and it was never built. It was pegged for about $140 million, I think, at the time. So you can talk of the sales pavilion, racetrack there, etc. And when mostly politics got in the way, the citizens nearby did not want it. They thought it would be a Disneyland for horses and a lot of traffic. And then the county executive put the jinx on it or whatever, didn't want it. So it was never built. Beautiful plans, and which were on our website for many, many years. Then came 2008, and of course there was a big recession, and there was no money. 2009, second Maryland Horse Forum. I did go to it. I had a magazine at the time called Maryland Life, and I went trolling for ads from the horse industry. And they had a marketing committee, and I signed up for the marketing committee, and that morphed into me getting the job in 2011 to be director of a horse board. And the first thing I thought, at my very first board meeting, Jay was not on the board with Charlie, I think he was matriculated from the board at that time. I thought, well, if there's no money, they were closing hospitals, they were closing this, they were closing that, and at least one thing I don't have to worry about is the horse park. And at that very first meeting, they said, now that we've hired you, the first thing we want you to do is re-examine that horse park and get that horse park built. And I thought, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? So, just scrambling around with Maryland Life magazine, I sold advertising to every county in the state of Maryland. So I traveled all over the state. And I said, well, let's do an inventory of what we have here already. It's not that big a state. It's not like Pennsylvania or Kentucky or something like that. And lo and behold, we had Fair Hill up there with a great 4-star and a great cross-country course. We had the Prince George's Equestrian Center, with a big indoor arena, seats about 3,000 people or so, 90 miles apart. And so why don't we do a horse park system? And sort of based on the Olympic model, where you have different venues, different places. Ice skating is here, but cross-country skiing is 50 miles away or something like that. So proposed that to the state authority. Said, oh, we already thought of that idea, and it's not a good idea. And I said, well, in the meantime, people from China had seen our plan for our horse park on our website, and the Chinese sort of take stuff from our website. And they said, we want to build a Maryland horse park in China. And I was invited to China for 2 weeks to do presentations on our Maryland horse park being built in China. And lo and behold, I did testify for a big government committee. They got $40 million from the Chinese government to help build this thing. It was, everything is state-owned over there, yada, yada, yada. And so lo and behold, I came back and they wanted to know who was going to be the designer and builder of our horse park here in Maryland. And I said, well, Todd Brown, Populous company out in Oklahoma, but they're all over the world. So I called Todd and I introduced him to the Chinese liaisons, etc. And I said, Todd, what do you think about revisiting the horse park and doing a horse park system? And he said, well, that's a pretty good idea. And he said, well, if it's your idea, the stadium authority will think it's a good idea. We will pay for your plane fare if you come and give a presentation. And that's exactly what happened. So lo and behold, we started, everything was done through the Maryland Stadium Authority. We extended that first study to a second study. Is there still a need, this was 2012, for a Maryland horse park? And we paid, I think it was $12,000. The Horse Industry Board put up the money. We could afford the $12,000. We did a study, and of course it said that yes, there's still a very vibrant horse industry here, and a horse park would be a good thing. So the next thing was to figure out what we needed in that horse park system. And this is where Populous and the Stadium Authority came in again. We needed a $70,000 grant from the Department of Commerce to do that. And I remember going into our treasurer's office with the head of fiscal services at MDA and said, we need $70,000 and I'm going to ask for a grant from the Department of Commerce. He slammed his fist down and said, get out of here. You will never, ever get that money and nothing will ever, ever be built. And that is the true story. Jim Wallace, he's retired. Anyway, fortunately, I knew the Secretary of Commerce at that time, Christian Johansson, and he had married, I worked in Mount St. Mary's, he married a Mount St. Mary's girl, and I called him up, told him what we needed, he said, you've got the $70,000. So we started that second study, and with that was, we put out an RFP for an outdoor venue, an indoor venue, and a cultural and education center. They were going to be the three components of a horse park. So we had one reply for the RFP for the outdoor venue, that was Fair Hill. We had one reply for the indoor venue, that was Prince George's Equestrian Center. We had really no replies for the Cultural and Education Center. At that point, the Baltimore County Ag Center was being built. Cricket and the horse breeders were thinking of moving over there. We thought that would be a great place for the Cultural and Education Center. But a week before all the RFPs were due, Baltimore County Ag Center pulled out. So we were left with exploring those two options through this study. So that's what happened. And the State Authority for a year did a very interesting study, figured Fair Hill needed about $20 million worth of improvements. Prince George's County needed $30 million worth of improvements to bring it up to speed. So my boss at the time, Assistant Secretary of Ag, he said, well, we have done the study, but it's up to the local communities of Prince George's County and Cecil County to put this horse park system together. And so we can bow out and they have to do the work. Well, no sooner than like 2 weeks later, Fair Hill rejuvenated. So I read that to my board, and that gave us an entree to go up and get involved in the community. And the first thing we did, we brought different components of Fair Hill together, the races, the fair, the 4-star at that time, and we all met together. So the first time a lot of them had been in the same room and talked. And it turned out everybody liked meeting. So at the second meeting, we decided to do short-term and long-term plans. And then we thought, well, we need to raise money. Let's start a Fair Hill Foundation. And then Sam Slater, who was a wonderful guy from Pennsylvania, raised his hand. I said, we need a chair, and he raised his hand and said, I'll be the chair. It was wonderful. And he hired at his own expense an executive director, Nina Gregory. And so we were on our way. Literally, 3 months later, Trish Gilbert calls me. She ran the 4-star, and she said, FEI has put out a call for a second 5-star. It was still a 4-star at that time, but it became a 5-star in the United States. We've got Rolex in Kentucky, and they want a second one in the U.S. There are 5 others. There's 2 in England, Baden and Burley, Lemuelin in Germany, Adelaide in Australia, and Po in France. And they want, and Kentucky was the 6th, and they wanted a second one in the U.S. And Trish said, should we put in for this? And it has to be done within a month's time. So, it was back and forth whether we should do this or not. And the Fair Hill International Board at that time was 50-50. They were split. So, at that point, I called Terry Hasseltine, who was head of Maryland Sports. He still is. And their job is to bring international sports to Maryland. And I said, can you come up and get involved with this? And then I called Todd Gralla again. And I said, can you come? And he said, there's no way. Where the current 4-star is located, back on the back of the property at Fair Hill on Gallagher Road, there's no water, there's no electricity, you can never have a 5-star there. I said, will you fly in? Fortunately, airfares are not that expensive. We bought his ticket, and he came in and he told the Fair Hill Board, you could never put an application in for a 5-star back on Gallagher Road. There's only one way in. If you're going to grow, you want 50,000 people or as big as Kentucky, you can never have it there. It's got to be moved over to where the racetrack is, where they have water, they have electricity, they have the infrastructure. And so that's what happened, and that was the impetus for getting Fair Hill improvements and the 5-star here, and getting kind of the horse park system kicked off. And there were all sorts of problems. There wasn't enough water. And since the days of Bully DuPont when he owned it, all the proceeds had to go to Union Hospital. We had to take it. State law had to be changed. So the proceeds didn't go to the hospital, which they weren't getting much proceeds anyway. And Jay Young, who's an attorney and Harvard engineered all of that, they actually came to Annapolis and testified and said, no, we don't need the Fair Hill money. And so the state law had to be changed, because we wanted, if any profits were made or any money was made, to go back into improving the site. So there were all sorts of obstacles. There were bog turtles out there where the cross-country course was going to be. And oh my God, we can't have this course here. You can't go here because of the bog turtles. Fortunately, they found out there was a way around the bog turtles. And then you had to cross Grange Run, and that was a protected stream. And anyway, overcame that obstacle. It was one thing after another. We had citizens there who were thinking that we were going to build Disneyland. We had the trails operator who said, I don't want any. And he's a horse person and taking out people on trail rides. He was against the 5-star. And I said, what better thing than to see this wonderful jump right behind the barn and you take people out and see the thing? No, this is a terrible thing. Well, fortunately, his lease ran out. And it wasn't renewed. And the barn was so old and decrepit that DNR burnt it down. So there is the trail riding stable there, but plans to rebuild it. So anyway, so that got Fair Hill sort of up and running. And, and we know this is the 3rd year of the 5-star this year. Queen's granddaughter came. And it got off to a big success. Carolyn's son was did the show jumping course last year. And anyway, it's been a big success. And costly, but a big success. And we still need to get racing back there. And that's all being worked on. And so anyway, that was the first leg. With Prince George's Equestrian Center, now the state owns Fair Hill. Prince George's Equestrian Center is owned by the county, is owned by Prince George's County, and it's managed by National Capital Parks and Planning. So you've got two entities running that place. Concurrently with what was going on at Fair Hill, we had some meetings with some legislators about the same time we were getting involved with Fair Hill, and there was no interest whatsoever in improving Prince George's Equestrian Center, etc. Then a guy came forward who was a private developer down there, John Petro. He had been an advertiser in Maryland Money magazine, and I know this money, by the way. So, of course I took a meeting with him. And he said, I have plans to, we can develop this, build a hotel, that we buy this from the county, it's a money loser for Prince George's County, etc. And I took him, we went to 2 trips to Tryon to see Tryon. He was involved, county leaders involved, and he had a plan for a hotel, a restaurant, to redo the whole thing, kind of like a beautiful gated community, kind of like a mini Tryon there. And then John died. So that put the kibosh on that. Then it was kind of in limbo there, and then we got word, I guess 2 years ago, the Washington International Horse Show, which has a 5-star show jumping competition, was interested in coming back to the Washington area. And again, it was a competition between, they were trying during the pandemic, and I went down to Tryon and I met with the board and everything. I said, we'd really love to have you in Maryland, and we know improvements need to be made to Prince George's and so forth, but we'll try hard to get those improvements made. Anyway, it was between the Virginia Horse Center and Prince George's Equestrian Center. And again, it was like Fair Hill was between Great Meadow in Virginia and Fair Hill. We never thought we would beat out Mrs. Mars in Virginia with Fair Hill. In fact, DNR was kind of hoping Mrs. Mars would win the bid. And then we won the bid. So then we had to build everything up there. And DNR ended up having to put about $25–30 million into Fair Hill. It needs about another $20 million to finish it off. Anyway, so back to Prince George's. So there was a wonderful person, and she's very involved now, Sheila Curry. And her husband, Wayne Curry, had been county executive. And she worked in the administration of, and still works in the administration of strategic partnerships for Angela also Brooks. He's the county executive. And Sheila's kids used to ride and show with Oliver Kennedy, and they showed at Washington International, they showed at Wellington, etc. She loved horse shows. So I got a hold of Sheila, and she became our champion down there. And she went to the county council. She had me go to Mako, and she said, which is the Maryland Association of Counties, about 1,000 people down there, and you go to the Prince George's County reception, and you've got 18 people you have to see, from the county executive on down, and tell them what we need. We need $2 million at that point to improve Prince George's Equestrian Center. New footing, and the list ran on to get us started down there. So I went down and I just checked off the list and saw person after person and said, Sheila sent me, and everyone gave me a big hug. We went back, we had a meeting with the county council, we told them the importance of the horse show and the importance of the center there. We came out of the meeting, they said, we'll give you $4 million. So anyway, last year we had the horse show for the first time there. It ended up about $2 million is what they put in, but they did put an all-new footing. It was tender hooks, whether, because it's managed, it's a government entity, one food station open. It was a nightmare during the show, the 3 nights of the show, lines of people, etc. This year, we think, but other than that, it was a big success. And people really seem to like being there. And anyway, they're back, and they've made more improvements. They just put a new $600,000 sound system in. They want to keep making improvements. We've had B&B Construction go through there, and we want to redo the barns, the layout, the design of Prince George's, and really make it a mini Tryon. So those are the things. So that's the second part of the horse farm was coming to fruition. And then lo and behold, here's cricket, and the horse breeders, and Barry, and John, and everybody, and Cindy. And they get this magnificent building and turn it into what we're sitting in today, which is now our cultural and education center for the horse park. This was all raised by private money. In the meantime, up at Fair Hill to get things going, Jay Griswold raised $4 million from the private sector to show the state we were in good faith, and the horse industry really wanted this facility. Charlie now leads that initiative. He's so excited about that. But anyway, so it's a work in progress. But we've now got our 2 5-stars. We've got this beautiful library. So now we have a horse bar system, and it's really all come together in the last year. But it's really taken 20 years to get to this point, from 2004 to 2024. So, and a lot of people put in a lot of work and a lot of time to do it. Fortunately, so in raising this money, we have really not any money for marketing. The Horse Industry Board, we have about a $40,000 budget for marketing. That doesn't even buy a flight of radio ads in this, the Baltimore, D.C. market. So, but we did apply for a grant from federal pandemic money for $250,000 to hire an agency and to market and advertise the horse park system. So we're in the throes of getting that together. $250,000 sounds like a good amount of money. In this market, it's not, but it'll get us going. So we're in the process of hiring an ad agency and putting a group together so we can market the horse park system around essentially October Horse Month, because we have our 2 big international 5-stars in the Maryland Million in that period. And so that's essentially where we are. And it's a work in progress 20 years from now. Who knows? I mean, Fair Hill is a natural resource management area. They were protesting. It was saying Fair Hill, we can't have an indoor arena here. We can't have this here. We can't have that. So, I mean, it took a lot of work. And Jay said, well, invite the Say Fair Hill people to come to all of our meetings. So we did. And then they became allies. And we said it will be over on the site of where the racetrack is. But 20 years ago, people changed. I mean, they may build a huge indoor up there, and Fairhill will become our big horse park. There's the training center there, 6,000 acres. I mean, who knows where this will all lead? What will happen to Prince George's? Prince George's is a gold mine with these horse shows. Capital Challenge Horse Show will be there next week. 2,000 horses for 10 days. People staying there in the hotels. Washington International did an economic impact study. Last year they had 600 horses over about a week there. It was a $9.8 million economic impact for the county, for Prince George's County, and for the state of Maryland. So we put all of these, we're encouraging, of course, Fair Hill, 5-star, to do an economic impact study, Capital Challenge to do one. And our events last year between Maryland Million, Fair Hill, and Washington International. Washington International, it's a small arena. They sold out for 3 nights. They had about 12,000 people, including during the day, at paid admission. I think there was about 25,000 people at Fair Hill. And Maryland Million, I don't know, usually have, 15,000, something like that.
Yeah, that was.
So you combine those 3 together in a 3-week period, it was 50 or 60,000 people that came. That's almost the size of the Preakness. I mean, and what's so nice is it bookends. Preakness is in the spring, and lead up with the steeplechasing which is great. I mean, there are 30,000 people, I guess, that go to the steeplechases, plus another, what, 50, 60,000 at the Preakness or more.
It can be more sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it fluctuates. I mean, the pandemic hit everybody hard, and everybody's trying to get back in gear. So we now have October Horse Month with these great events to book in the Preakness Festival in the spring. And so hopefully it keeps going, you know. We keep improving the facilities. We have to keep the international riders engaged, and so forth. One thing with the education center here, we started at the Horse Industry Board Horse Discovery Centers. And we figured, this was back when the Baltimore County Ag Center was thinking of being the education center, people from St. Mary's County or Worcester or Wycomico who would want to drive all the way up for us to learn about horses at Baltimore County. It was unlikely that was going to happen. We have all these wonderful stables around the state. So we started a volunteer program, sort of based on Rotary, service above self. And you volunteer and you meet certain criteria, and the public is invited on your farm to learn about horses. You can charge a fee, you can do free lessons, you can do this, you can do that, any way you want. Every place is unique. And so we now have 42 horse discovery centers in 18 counties. We have our central meeting. We had our central meeting here last year so people could see the library. I think we had folks from 18 or 19 counties here. Some from the Eastern Shore and Southern Maryland, someone from St. Mary's came all the way up and see the library. So that's our outreach across the state, and we can call on those people to go to events. We have Horseland at the State Fair now. We have different counties that have county fairs that have horses. Frederick has a big one. Montgomery County, Anne Arundel County. St. Mary's has a huge horse industry down there in St. Mary's. And things are just sort of growing all over the state. I mean, it's just Ann, Liz, and I, and we find it hard to keep up with everything.
Let's talk a little bit about COVID and how that impacted the lesson laws and the sort of an interesting response to COVID.
Right. We thought, you know, of course they were suspended. You couldn't ride in state parks, and the lesson stables, they had to be shut down. And after 30 days, Governor Hogan said, well, you can go outdoors to the parks again. And we got this decree, I guess, or memorandum from the governor's office. And it said you could go to the stables, the employees could go to the stables, but people that had their horses could not. And that was for about 30 days. And then it kind of lightened up a little bit when you could ride in state parks. So Ann and I are sitting there, and they asked the Department of Communications if we had any edits to it. And we said, riding stables are open again. We inserted that in. And we thought we would be fired. But no, they agreed, and the riding stables were open again. And as it turned out, there was an uptick in riding because when you're on horseback, you're socially distant, you're outdoors, parents have their kids at home, what are we going to do with them? And we did a survey after about a year, and there was about a 10% increase in horseback riding. We always use Hope Marsh as a gauge over here at Maryland Saddlery. She has 3 stores. It's continued after the pandemic. Last year was the best year she's been in business 30 years, the best year she's ever had in business, and it's continued. So let's just hope it continues. Any questions?
Yeah. Professor Peddicord. So
He knows I barely graduated from Washington College, and that's a big joke.
but seriously, an awful lot of this wouldn't have happened had it not been for your promotional skills and working with cricket closely. And
Well, I will tell you one thing, Jay. I'm just a facilitator. If you did not have, we literally have the Carolyn Chromes of the world. We have probably, and Jane Terry, we have probably 1,000 people here that are passionate, that I can call on at any time to do things, and they do them because they love horses. Stacy Bennett's here. mean, we just had a group from Mustang people there in Stacy, came for 2 days and hosted them going around the state. So,
Yeah,
we
but-
facilitate.
Yeah,
But-
well, you can sell ice boxes but
Farm.
and
Right.
it's true. And I think what you've done really is bring a lot of these horse people together. I knew your husband Major from him, and
He taught me how to use a computer.
He-
Tried to teach me.
He was a very talented snake pension fund advisor. But, so, no, I think it's been a huge cooperative effort. And look, the fact of the matter is Kentucky has whiskey and horses, that's about it. And most of Kentucky is not Maryland. And so they have those two things, they sell the hell out of. Maryland's got a lot more competing interests, and nobody really knew until you started working your magic that the horse was that significant in this state.
Well, there's a lot more work to do.
There's a lot more work to do, but we had a very cooperative administration at the time. We hope this one's gonna be equally, if not more cooperative, we don't really know yet. But, you've made a secret industry much more, open to, and people realize what the assets and economic impact really is. And that's that never would have happened had we had a passive cricket, a passive person in charge of the.
Well, sometimes she thinks I'm a little too aggressive.
No, Ross is a
Calm
huge
down a little bit.
motivator, as everyone who knows him here, but.
You gotta speak up now, because I'm going deaf, I can't hear.
Okay, so Ross is a motivational expert, and he's right, he
Yeah,
likes
Jerry
fires
Falwell
other
will
people.
run for his money.
But this industry, you're right, has been sort of a secret, because what appeals to all of us, the beautiful farms, everywhere you see a horse, I don't think legislators or a lot of lawmakers knew that that was part of the horse industry. They sort of thought, well, I'm driving through this beautiful part of Montgomery County or Baltimore County, so it's incumbent on us as the horse breeders to make that case, but all of you too, who have horse farms and can talk to your legislators, but that's a huge part of it, is land preservation and keeping Maryland beautiful. And so by default, the more we promote horses, and everyone loves horses, is what I tell everybody that comes here. You might like dressage horses or polo, but the horse is the common denominator. And so where Ross has been so successful is selling this idea of 3 separate sites, which took some selling, not just with where the site was, but the concept, because Kentucky, as you know, is all in one place.
And now, look at all the other stuff we have. Back in 2010, we didn't have Lock Moy out in Frederick County. She has 5,000 to 6,000 competitors there. We have McDonough School, which is building their 3rd indoor arena. We have Days End Horse Rescue, which is building a new $2 million equine welfare center. We have Gentle Giants Draft Horse Rescue. They have 150,000 donors from all over the country. They're going to build a retreat center there. They have 500 acres there. We just have so much here now, but we'll have 3 anchor places and maybe affiliates. This is what we're going to be grappling with our advertising and marketing campaign. How do we sell not only these 3 spots, but these we have to work with government money and some private money. This is privately funded, but Prince George's is county money, state money up at Fair Hill. What you have to go through to get that funding and to try to get that funding and figure out how to get that money is jumping through every sort of hoop you can even think of and not even think of. So it makes it harder for us, but we do know Fair Hill will not change hands, will be there forever. And to realize that is probably one of the most glorious places in the world for horses. Crichton and I, we've gotten some USDA funding. We've gone to Chantilly. We've gone all over Ireland. We've gone to some of the great horse parks. I've been to China 4 times. They're trying to build what we have here. By the way, the guy that was going to build a horse park over there, our horse park in China, got cancer and died a year later. So he ran a big coal industry part in Inner Mongolia. So he started building it. I went over a year later and he'd already built a 5-star hotel and I said, you've got to make it a destination resort and have palm trees. And he had 2 miles of palm trees leading into the thing. And, but then he died. And, but anyway, so, there's just lots of competition.
And that's a real weakness of some of these private enterprises. Mr. Orwell Trucking has done a cattle out of cash flow. That's pretty unique. But if something happens to Mr. Orwell, Mr. Roberts, I think his name is.
But it's fine to share all of this. For have people go and compete in Florida in the wintertime, as long as they come back here and they back here in April and stay through October, November, and and it's a lot of regionalism here between Pennsylvania and Virginia and horses, and it's a great place to be if you're going to have horses and are interested in horses.
And that's why the anchor events, which are not going anywhere, we hope, need to continue and need to be funded. We are, in the thoroughbred business, pretty much at the mercy of the legislature here. We're highly regulated, unlike, the rest of the horse events, but we also benefit from revenue to keep horses here competitive. So I think that it is incumbent on all of us to get in front of that and make sure that happens, because as you know, legislators don't last forever. We were fortunate to have a long-term president of the Senate and Speaker of the House who knew the history and were very helpful. There are a lot of new people in Annapolis, including a new governor. So it is, and I believe it is incumbent that we show him why we're important and what the economic impact is. We're not just going to say, can you give us another $20 million for Fair Hill, without showing him why Fair Hill is helping Maryland. And that's good, that's fine, that puts us on the,
And it's turnover in the legislature, but I know for our magazine, it's about a 10% churn rate in the population of Maryland. People dying, new people moving in. So marketing efforts to spread the word about horses it never stops. It's continuous.
and you have to show
All
your
the time.
importance. Luckily we've been fortunate here in Reisterstown with this place that the local communities association embraced us. We're right up the hill from some of the most beautiful farms in Baltimore County. But again, you don't sit on your laurels. You show them why we're important here in Baltimore County, Prince George's County, Cecil County, and then you become an economic hub for those counties. So I think that's and each event. It's Lockwood and Frederick. I can't name them all. Ross can, but they have to be.
I don't think it's out of the question some of this bigger private money can follow the government money too.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
That's sort of what happened here, Jay, because this has been a sort of dream of mine to have an office, library, et cetera, for a long time. And, we asked people, a lot of people locally, and of course people that we knew for money, and we were very well received, but I think they were like, let's see if it happens, and it's happened. It's, we built it, we know it's doing what we hope, but people like to see that when they give you money. They want to see a successful Washington show, or, we're still frustrated with the racing at Fair Hill, I'll be honest with you. Fair Hill, grass course, we should have a state-of-the-art meet We're gonna have to pass the torch here
I
soon.
know I'm falling apart, but anyway, Jane?
Yeah, I think that it's all great. It's amazing. I've seen it now the last 15 years, all of this energy, and the thing that Ross is brilliant at is he says, yeah, that's a good idea. You go do it. To a lot of people. And then a lot of people go and do it.
Because Ann and I can't possibly do it all. If we find someone like Jane who loves,
Let me finish asking my question.
she loves horse manure. She's got a company now that packages horse manure, and she's big into climate, the environment and farm stewardship. So, go forth, Jane. We have people that love horse things at the state fair. Go forth and do it.
You know, there's an element of how we can market Maryland where horse farms are good for the environment. If you go to Wellington, it's an environmental disaster in Wellington. This is not an environmental disaster. We have open space, we have green pastures, we have, people in the
Carolyn
industry
Rowe,
that-
we have her farm.
Carolyn's farm is a premier way of having wildlife habitat and clean water and a happy horse farm. And then we also have your discovery centers. We in Maryland don't think you don't have to wear diamonds to ride your horse. Everybody can get on a horse. We have therapeutic riding, we have little lesson barns, trail riding. It should be accessible. It's not just a luxury item.
And that is a misperception for a lot of people.
Absolutely, but
Rich
I
horses.
think if you're marketing, people start saying, we have western riding, we have
Which is
we
growing.
have jousting,
Right.
we have therapeutic riding, 100,000 horses and more horses per square mile than any state in the United States. You probably said this before you got here. But, we have a brand that's different than the Hamptons or Ocala or
We're Maryland is an education state, and
equine studies, you ever seen that?
And these lesson barns are another way of teaching and educating children, or anyway, folks of all ages, really. But you go to Ocala, and it may be different now, but I don't know too many lesson barns down in Ocala. They're wonderful, big competition barns and 3-day eventing and show barns, but they learn here and then they move to Ocala. But we should be proud of that. I mean, we teach here, and we have a long history of great riding teachers. I can remember the ones that taught me, Donna, the great teachers we had around.
Why aren't you a better rider since you have such good instruction?
We can stick on that, show your horse license. That's it. Show
Good question. And my classmate was Bruce Davison. He was up here and I was down. But anyway.
Yeah, that school was a great place
Yeah,
for
it is.
teaching and produced so many.
And still is.
Background of the MCTA and everything, so what cases we see.
Yeah, Garrison, Paul, we're fortunate to have schools.
This is a great education state, and not everybody has that.
And I think it's proven that we grow fans. I mean, look, I don't know who's in the audience, but I know in this room who work for me, we love horses, and we're now able to make a living either with touching horses, that if we still do that, or not. So I think that kids love horses.
We'd love to create more jobs here
Yeah, and that's
for
one thing.
people that want to be having careers in horses,
So that's one thing we do for the foundation, we have a career program, which I'd like to expand, but absolutely, that's one of my passions, that we can give people a viable option to love horses, do what they love with horses, but also make.
Rick, what's your read on the administration early days? Are you getting a positive response?
He's got a lot on his plate with what's going on in the thoroughbred industry, the redevelopment of tracks and what's gonna happen there, so I think that it's a hard read. He's trying to, he started, form this authority, but I think that he's a data guy. If you've heard him talk at all, Governor Moore,
David Griffin.
he's not gonna give you something just because you're asking us. And so that's why I said, I think the horse industry has to be incumbent. It has to be incumbent on showing not just the events, but, the infrastructure around Fair Hill. Let's face it, we need some more infrastructure. We need some more hotels and stuff in Maryland around Fair Hill. And that would,
April?
I was wondering if you read the Daily Record recently had, not the regular Daily Record, but they had a special hadn't. And so I invited him to come with us. And we're sitting there at a table on Veterans Day, and we're talking to some people, and then they got up to leave, and he said, how long have you done that? I said, 20 minutes. What? I thought you already knew them. I'm like, no. This is what it's like. This is what it's like when you're at a horse race, any horse race.
But you need that, and
You
that's
got your
why,
beer, and you are
that's why
literally off to the races.
Maryland Million is successful because of
Exactly.
tennis and stuff.
Yeah,
And
people
so
love
it's all
going
the
to
tracks,
the
the tracks have to
And the
have that.
eventing, but these guys were acting like it was all at eventing and nowhere else.
That's somebody who wrote the editorial loves.
That loves it.
Yeah, I know, no, we need to get out more, and so they'll be invited around there.
Right.
Or the previous, like I said, in the summer.
You have to have a good experience at the track, which we're.
You do.
So any other questions or comments or?
I'm nobody here. It just seems to me Cecil County is so close to Pennsylvania. Are there private donations that you might want to look at from?
It's got to speak to that, yeah, I think you have, Pennsylvania and Delaware are both supporters of Fairville, I believe.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, Unionville and Chester County, I mean, yeah, and it's really a mid-Atlantic type of event.
And Elon Musk doesn't like horses? I mean, you need like a very, very rich people, right?
Well, that's sort of the misconception. Yes, that's the.
For the money part.
Well, you need some I believe some grassroots support and some rich people, but I think that you don't want it perceived as only rich people's sport. It just, and that's what, if you go to the 5-star this year, or any of the, well, they don't have the other Fair Hill stuff, but you'll see all kinds of people. I mean, there's people that.
And you know,
Yeah, for the
the
Court
Gardners
races.
are from Pennsylvania, and they're huge donors to Fairhill. Dr. Tim Gardner,
They were Marylanders.
Yeah.
they were Marylanders, they moved to Unionville, Pennsylvania, but they love Fairhill and been wonderful donors to Fairhill. So, reach out, you know, all the time. This is Mars, it's the Mars 5-star, it's the Mars Washington International Horse Show.
Yes, it is.
And Jay has become great friends with Mrs. Moore. And
She's got a lot of friends.
she's got a lot of
I want to make friends with her. She supports the library in Middleburg. How about Maryland?
So, you know, just keep plugging away and try to do the best you can do. And
If you haven't, have you been up to Fairville to see?
I'm going.
Well, and
I just heard about it.
across the road from where the 5-star event is a training center for thoroughbred racehorses, which is recognized as horse heaven, and within, the whole region, it's just a perfect place, as Ross said, to have horses, thoroughbred horses in that case. But so if you get a chance to take a little tour of that while you're up there, it's just horses live like horses, where sometimes,
And again, that was the state of Maryland project.
well,
And when it started, it had several lean years. The barns used to sell for $50,000 a pop. They're now 1.5 million a barn to be there. I mean, it had several lean years, and I guess it was almost bankrupt at one point, and the state of Maryland stuck with them. And now it's probably the premier thoroughbred training center in America. And
Kentucky Horse Park had a lot of lean years too, before
Yeah.
it actually got a footing. So you have to have fortitude, be willing to make things happen over time with these kind of projects. They're that big.
Would we have stars at our horse park? I mean, Kentucky Horse Park they lost 3 of them. They had Go for Jen, Point Given, and Funnyside. And that pulled in a lot of people. So
There is some interest in doing a facility like Old Friends. Now, I don't know that would be at a horse park, but like,
well, that's what the Kentucky Horse Park had. And then they had
Yeah.
a harness racer. Those 3 horses. And then of course they had Man of War's Grave and Cigar, and I forget who else, but those
yeah,
3
absolutely,
stars.
something like that would be.
People, that's why I went to the Kentucky Horse Park
Yeah,
So-
something like that would be a good addition.
during COVID.
Famous racehorses retire or,
Yeah.
and Sanford's too, we have a Sanford industry.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the horse forum next year a little bit?
Pardon?
The horse forum?
Oh, the horse farm? Yeah, so, So there will be a survey that comes out. It's Dr. Burke, she's on Cricket's board as well as our board at the Horse Industry Board. She's tenured professor of equine sciences at the University of Maryland. She and her team will put together a survey and send it out. I know to all of our lists, probably goes out to 10,000 people maybe. We usually get about between 800 and 1,000 responses back of the issues they want addressed, and then they're all parsed out. And there are usually 4 tracks of breakout sessions, and we have different speakers and things like that. We've had it at Prince George's Equestrian Center 3 times, I think. The first 3 times. We had it at Goshen College last time, and this time they've gone around and the committee wants to have it at McDonough and see all they're doing over there. And so the school's interested. They still have to do a site visit and so forth.
It would be August, right?
Yeah, it'll be August. It's always like the first week of August. For some reason, that's a pretty good time, except for some people that go to Saratoga. Like Stacy, she might be in Saratoga. But they try to come back with it. So one day for generally about 300 people, and we have, generally the governor comes or a high-profile cabinet officer. And the last one we unveiled, the 5-star. And Jeff Newman he runs the 5-star, was our guest of honor, and Kelly Schultz was the speaker, and we had county executive Johnny Shesky speak in the morning, and Stuart Pittman spoke. He's now in Arundel County executive. So, and we invite legislators, and we produce a report, and it goes to all 188 legislators with an executive summary. They don't read the whole report. Hopefully they go through the executive summary, but it gives us a blueprint. The Horse Discovery Center idea came out of that. This horse park system, the horse park came out of the forum. We listened.
The website?
The website, MarylandHorse.com, I didn't even go into that. That was a big thing, and that's what Cricket had already started with, and expanding on that. So we try to listen and gather all this information and do what we can. These just aren't haphazard ideas that happen. They come from their source, from our constituents. And
Just to add, we did start branding with the flag horse that's on our sign, and we have the stickers of it that looks like that. He's actually a native dancer, but we started that before all this, and we give away those stickers. You can buy stickers online, but we've given probably 200,000 away since we started. So that's what all this marketing, we'll still use that flag horse as a brand because it's pretty well established. And if you want any stickers or you want to take them around, we'd love to see them in other counties, we've been sent things from Ireland, we've had some over there, and so it's, please feel free to.
And we have international outreach we do. We have an Asian horse group now that just works with big Asian communities in Montgomery and Howard County. They had 50-some people just came to Timonium races. Bill Reitler is on that board and brought them over to Timonium. We have a lot of, we have about 10 or 12 inner-city urban outreach programs. Danny Schuster has got 7 farms now, and big indoor facilities, and he brings inner-city kids out. I mean, imagine that.
The one outside.
He just bought Moreland, which is right
Yeah.
down the road here,
Oh, yeah.
and from Stephanie Moore. And Danny Schuster bought that, and he bought one in Woodlawn, and he did, a $4 million one up in Hampstead. I mean, he brings urban city, inner-city kids in.
That's a personal kind of passion. He has a foundation, but that is his passion. So that we do have people who are that committed to.
As well as many others that
Yeah.
do those programs. City Ranch, and we had a meeting of a whole bunch of them here. And how can we do more outreach with inner city kids? We have a guy that does the same thing in DC called his name is Ray Parker. He calls it the Educated Horseman, and we're working with him as well in the DC metro area. So, and we have a great relationship with Ireland, and a lot more Well, Pony Club, well, I was a D3.
I was fortunate to be in both clubs, so we stepped through my dog.
Pony Club and 4-H Club, I think there are 22 pony clubs in Maryland, and about 1,500 4-Hers with horse projects are count. So we have a small grants program. We hone in on, we get a few grant requests from pony clubs and 4-H club. I mean,
We've-
they're the whole basis,
We've
really.
had a couple of the pony clubs meet here, they've called us and wanted to do that, and we've tried to coordinate more with 4-H. Becky is working on that, so I think it's a little, it's not so easy to.
Crowd.
Yeah, it's hard to reach all of them.
What is interesting
Reach all of them,
is-
we'd love to have more of them come visit you.
When I was growing up, it was a lot of pony, it was either pony club or 4-H. It's the advent of these lesson barns and the growth of these lesson barns and the
We do
interscholastic.
have the center program, which
Yeah.
they use the lesson barn.
And some of them have pony clubs attached to them. The hunt clubs have pony
Yeah.
clubs attached to them. It used to be mostly just the hunt clubs. Green Spring Pony Club, Mrs. Beckford at Alfred Harford started Pony Club and all of that.
I think we could do a better job just because we all recognize that kids are where it starts.
Yeah, but I think we do a better job
Yeah, the pony races
with
would be
them.
super.
They need to reach out to you as well.
We just need to get the word out so they know how to reach out to us. That's what happened with the pony clubs that called, I think they called us, I don't know that we. So I think that, again, I think that's part of what we are supposed to do here and we'll work on.
They've only been